Hello everyone, this is Christian Interactive, and in this video we are going to continue with our offset pager, and we're actually going to generate all of the information, data that we need to actually create the UI for the user to interact with. So for instance, what we'll do is we'll have the ability to tell the user which elements they're looking at out of a total of how many. We'll generate the URLs that we'll need to create first, next, and last anchor tags. And then from there we'll generate the URLs so that we can generate the actual pages themselves, the 1, 2, 3, or in this case 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We'll also handle the cases of if the user is at, say, the beginning. So page 1 will only show next and last, or have the ability to only show next and last, and then it shows 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And similarly for the last, shows first and previous, not next and last, and 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And so that's what we'll take care of in this video. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started here. So what we're doing is, of course, creating the information, the data, whatever you want to call it, that we need in order to create this UI for the user. So we're basically going to break it down into, its component parts, which I call, taking its time there. So basically call the, we're telling the user what elements they're looking at. So I call this a stats. Then we have this first, previous, next, and last anchor tags, and then we have the actual pages themselves, right? So we're basically going to split it up into those component parts. And while I'm at it, I'm going to close Visual Studio before I accidentally pick that one. And so we're back to Visual Studio Code here, and we're inside the pager itself. So what I'm going to do is to say, so if we come in here, so we have the create async method, we find the entities. We have to do this after finding the entities, of course, because it does find the total count at the same time. So what we're going to do is come in here and make a method call, generate UI, pass in the page. I haven't made that yet, so we're going to make it. Basically just sticking with this. You can use the create async method. It does everything for you, or you would be able to do, piece by piece, of course, making sure you do it in the right order and all that. So we need our generate UI. So let's go ahead, put it right here. Like void generate UI, pass in the page. All right, so we're going to break this down into those component parts I said. So in this case, we'll just say generate stats, pass in the page, and we're back to creating our another method. This time though we're going to do a private void generate stats, pass in the page. All right, so what we need to do is follow the notes and actually create the properties that we need. So we'll have some stats, so stat first and stat last, so we'll put them down here. And now that we have those, we can come down and do everything. So stat first is going to be equal to page minus 1 times take and plus 1. So if page is equal to 1, this will be 0, 0, so the first one, we're looking, the page has the first element. If we're on page 2, 2 minus 1 is 1, take. So the first take, we're on the previous page, so the first element for this page is take plus 1. And last one is, so if page is equal to last page, then this is just stat last, and that's equal to the total count. Else stat last is equal to page times take. Every time I do this, I've done this video or preparation for this a little bit, I keep forgetting that maybe I like it even better just to say stats last is equal to page equals last page. Then it's the total count. Else it's page times take. Does that look better? I think so. So let's just make it that. Save that. Server is going to restart, and then on our Razor page we are going to come over here and copy and paste. So I'm just making stat first hyphen stat last of total count. Save it. Take a look. 1 of 2 of 20. Oops, what's going on there? 9, 10 of 20, and of course we're on the last page. 19, 20, and 20, so that works. So the next thing that we're going to do is back to the pager, and we're going to do with the next, previous, last, all that kind of stuff. So first thing we're going to do is add in, actually, so we're going to write this a few places. So what I'm going to do is just create a constant string for this page, which is the route parameter that we need to specify the page. And we'll have the come down property. We need a first URL, and then we're going to need a last URL, next URL, and previous URL. And next thing we're going to do is I'm going to come back to the create async method, and I'm actually going to add something in here. So we're going to add in the ability to include some unspecified route values when we're creating our routes. And next, generate UI then needs those, going to need those route values. And of course, we'll have to update our page. Since this is user facing, we're going to go ahead and give it a default value of null. So you don't necessarily have to specify it. But if you do specify it, what we want to do is to convert this object into a for route values equals. So if route values equals null, then what we'll have is just a new route value dictionary. Whoops. No semicolon. Otherwise, new route value dictionary and route values. Store import. So now we have a route value dictionary. One thing I want to make sure though is that it contains the a key of PG for our page. If it doesn't, I'm just going to add one in, sort of default. So route values dot contains key, and we have that as the page parameter name. If that's in fact false, then why are you beeping at me? What'd I do? What we'll do is say route values dot add page parameter name. We'll just default it to 1. Perfect. All right, so the next thing up we're going to need is to generate those. Like I said, we're doing the next, previous, and all that. So in addition to doing that, what we're going to actually need to do is to create URLs, and we're going to need it in a couple places. So what we're going to do is just create a local method here. So if you pass me a route value dictionary, what I will give you back is model.url.page, and I think we have a page name and X, so the route value dictionary. Okay, so then I'm going to say generate first, next, prev, last, pass in the page, pass in the value, route values, dictionary, and our function URL. Now we come down to the area. Private void, generate blah blah blah, int page, route value dictionary, route values, and last but not least, a func which takes in a route value dictionary and gives us back a string called URL. So here's our new method. And now, I know it's already been set, but to be sure, And to keep the symmetry of this, we'll say page parameter name equals to 1, and then first URL is just going to be URL route values. It's actually what all of them are going to be, so let's just copy this. So we need first, next, last. I think I have too many spaces in a whole bunch of places. Alright, so let's do what I do next. Previous. So previous URL is just going to be page -1. Right, and then we'll have page +1, which gives us the next URL, and last URL is just last page. Right, so now we're able to generate those. Let us make sure we agree with it. Back to the Razor page. So we have first, previous, next, last. Save that. So the first page is 1. Previous page, I'm on page 10. So previous page is 9. Next page would be 11. And last page is page 10. So let's just do page 1. 1, 0, 2, 10. Everything's working the way that we want it to. Back to our pager here. So the next thing that we need to do is to deal with the individual page numbers. And unlike the first and previous, next, last, those all, the text is the same. We don't change any CSS classes on them. You can't be on the first page. I mean, you'd be on the first page, but not on this. We just won't show those. So we need to know the text that's contained within these little anchors. We also basically add a little styling to it. In this case, make it bold. And I think should be where is it at? Page 2. So I do not know why I have that. It's not supposed to be an anchor tag there. Maybe it got changed at some point, who knows. It's supposed to be not to click on. If you're on the page, it doesn't help us to click on the page, right? So we'll deal with that in our current version here, and I'll fix that in the later, my own. And so what it basically boils down to is we need to create a class to help us out. That class is going to have a few properties on it. CSS, is it text only, text and URL. I'm actually going to put a constructor on here, so you have to provide the text and URL, and we'll default to string empty for the CSS class. So now that we have that class, we'll go back to the pager and change some, or add some stuff. So although it's going to be listed in one spot, I generally don't like magic strings floating around, so the active anchor class is just going to be active. We're going to need to have some anchors, so we'll have a list of them. We're also going to have to have a way to specify how many of them that we want, so number of anchors. So we'll go back up to our constructor here, new up our list of anchors, and give us 5 anchors. Back down to our generate UI method here, and I'm going to create a generate pages. And in the pages, we're going to pass in page, route values, and the URL function. Come down here. So let me just, so we have our pages function, page route values, and the URL function. And here we'll do a little bit of work. So what I basically want to end up with in general, so if the data set is large enough and we're in the middle of it, I want to end up with, in this case we have 5 links, or 5 anchors. I want to have 2 on the left, 2 on the right, and of course the middle one. So we're going to start by finding out what the middle is. So our middle is equal to int math.ceiling, the number of anchors divided by 2.0, so running the division of integers. So that'll give us the middle. What we're going to need to know is the start and the end. And we'll do that in a couple places. If, and we'll say page, if page less or equal to the middle. So I'm just going to write these and then we'll talk a little bit. So if last page minus page is less than the middle, and else. So generally speaking, what these are doing is that the first one is handling the case in which we are so close to the beginning of the data set that we won't have enough anchors to put, in this case, 2 of them before the page. The second one is if we're at the end of the data set, then we won't have enough anchors to have 2 after whatever page we're on, and the generic case, right? So the generic case is just going to be start is equal to last page minus number of anchors, and then plus, helps if you look at the right place. So start page minus middle plus 1. End is equal to page plus middle minus 1. All right. And so if we're at the beginning of the data set, then we know that start is going to be 1. End is going to be equal to math.min of number of anchors or last page. So we might not, data set might not be large enough to have 5, in this case 5 anchors, so we'll just have the last page. And the last bit, so start is equal to last page minus number of anchors plus 1. And the end, of course, is just the last page. And it's been a long time since I actually did this. It took me a minute when I was going through this to actually run through it in my mind to make sure I felt that it was correct. And needless to say that the fact that I haven't had any problems before was not enough to sway me. But it might take you a minute to run through it and convince yourself that all of that is correct. For I, so we need to create those basically URLs. So we'll start from the start, I less or equal to the end, I plus plus. So here we are. We just take our route values and put the page param name equal to I, and then our anchor is equal to new offset page or anchor. We have to give it the text, which we will just do a template string. So we'll pass in I, and URL of route values will give us the URL. And then we'll say that if I is equal to page, right? So if the I is the current page, then what we'll say is that the anchor.css class is equal to the active, there we go, CSS class, and then we'll also say that anchor.is text only equals true, and then we'll say anchors.add anchor. All right, so now we should have pages. So if we go back to the page, if we just for each over all of our anchors and print out the URLs, anchor.url. What's wrong here? Did I forget? I think I forgot. Did I forget? Oh, pager. No, I couldn't have forgotten, right? We have the anchors. We have the getter for anchors. Or could be that every once in a while Visual Studio Code gets all fouled up at some point. So let's come back and take a look, see if we crash. Nope. We're on page 1, so we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we're on page 5, we get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if we're at the end of the data set 10, we get 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's working correctly, ignoring all my little red marks there. So of course, if we think about it, I think I mentioned it previously, if we're on the last page, which we're on page 10, the last page, there is no next, there is no page 11, and we might as well not even show last because we're already on the last page. Same if we're on page 1 for the other two. So let's deal with that. Let's go back to our pager here. We're going to add in a few more properties here. And all around showing. Show first, show last, show next, and show previous. What I guess we'll do is we're going to go ahead and default these to be true, right? So we'll default them all. Next thing, back to our generate UI method. We're going to create a new one, which is generate and no. We'll just call it show. Makes no sense, but again, pass in the page. Scroll down to our area down here. Guess it should go here. Private void generate show page. Perfect. So first up is, do we show the pager at all? That's easy if we say that if take is greater than or equal to the total count, so we have all of them that we're showing, then we do not need a page, and we're done. All right, next up, if page equals 1, and then else if page equals last page. So strictly speaking, we don't need a separate one for 2, like so show first equals false and show previous equals false. We don't actually need both of them, right? We could combine them, but whatever. Show next equals false and show last equals false. Perfect. And just to make sure that's working, back to our page, modify our code a little bit here, so we'll just put the ifs in here. Save that. Back to the browser, refresh, we're on the last page, and I done broke something. We're on the pager. Where's my little red doohickey? Oh. What does that even mean? Page. Restarted. Try again. We're on the last page again. So we show first and previous, nothing else. If we're on page 7, 70 does not work. Page 7. So we have first, previous, next, and last, and if we're on page 1, we get next and last. So that takes care of at least generating the information that we need in order to create the UI for the user to actually interact with our pager. But that will have to wait till the next video. As usual, thank you for watching. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please leave them in the comments section below. Otherwise, I will talk to you in the next video. Thank you for taking the time to watch our video. I know that your time is valuable. If you liked the video, please subscribe to our channel and click the thumbs up button, as well as share the video with your friends. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please leave them in the comments section below. And once again, thank you, and I will talk to you in the next video.